Picture this. Tuesday evening. You're sitting at your own kitchen table. Dinner's done. Nothing fancy. Just the pasta you've been making for 24 years because she said she liked it once, and you never stopped. Your daughter's upstairs doing homework. The house is quiet the way houses get quiet when two people have run out of things to say, but haven't admitted it yet. Your wife sets down her fork. Doesn't look at you. Looks at the wall behind your head like she's reading something written there. "We're just roommates," she says. Not angry. Not sad. Like she's reporting the weather. That's all this is anymore. We're just roommates sharing a house. You sit with that for about 5 seconds. You look at your pasta. You look at her. And you say the one word she never expected. Okay. She blinks. Okay. You say again. If that's what we are, then let's do it right. That was my kitchen. My wife Lois. 24 years of marriage. My name is Irving McBride, and that Tuesday in Eugene, Oregon changed everything. Not because of what she said, but because of what I did with it. See, I'm a researcher. 22 years in the history department at the University of Oregon. I study patterns. I read documents. I process information slowly, internally, and when I finally speak, I've already run every scenario. Lois knew this about me. She was counting on something different that night. Tears, maybe. A fight. Some crack in the surface she could point to and say, "See? He does care." Or maybe, "See? He's the problem." What she got was a spreadsheet. Wednesday morning, I left a printout on the kitchen counter. Mortgage, split 50-50. Utilities, 50-50. Groceries, separate shelves. Internet, lawn service, Willa's school fees, all itemized, all divided. I'd been up since for working on it. Not because I was angry, because she'd finally named the thing I'd been feeling for 2 years, and my brain did what it always does, organized it. Lois picked up the paper. Read it twice. Set it down. "What is this?" "Roommate agreement," I said. "You want to be roommates. Let's be fair about it." "Irving, I didn't mean," "You said exactly what you meant." "I'm respecting that." She stood there holding her coffee mug with both hands. I could see her trying to find the angle. Was I punishing her? Testing her? No. I was being literal. And that scared her more than any fight would have. Here's where I need to take you back. Because that Tuesday didn't come from nowhere. Lois and I met in 1999 at a faculty mixer. She was in hospital administration at PeaceHealth, sharp and confident, the kind of woman who walked into a room and rearranged the energy in it. I was the guy in the corner reading name tags to avoid small talk. She came over, pointed at my glass, and said, "That's club soda, isn't it? You're the only sober person here." I like that. We married in 2001. Bought the house on Chambers Street. For years it worked. She ran the practical world. I lived in the internal one. And we met somewhere in the middle over dinner and weekends in Willa, who arrived when Lois was 41. A surprise. The best one. But Lois had a daughter from her first marriage. Colleen Lovell, 34 years old, lived in Portland, and carried a resentment toward me with the kind of patience only a grown child of divorce can sustain. To Colleen, I was the man who replaced her father. Didn't matter that her parents split 7 years before I showed up. In her story, I was the reason her mother stopped trying to go back. 2 years ago, Colleen moved to Eugene. Took a job at a wellness center downtown. Started coming over for dinner every Sunday. And that's when things shifted. Not overnight. Slowly. The way a river changes course, you don't notice until the water's somewhere it shouldn't be. First it was the phone. Lois had always been present. No screens at dinner. That was her rule. Then one evening I was telling her about a research grant I'd applied for. Something I'd spent 3 months putting together. And I looked up, and she was scrolling. Thumb moving. Eyes down. I stopped talking. She didn't notice for almost a minute. "Sorry, what?" she said. "Nothing," I said. "Nothing important." Then the guest room. "My back's been killing me," she said one night in October. "I need a firmer mattress for work. Just for a while." She moved her pillow, her phone charger, her reading glasses. The while became November. Then December. Then we stopped mentioning it. Then the spiritual community. Colleen introduced her to a group called the Centered Path, Sunday gatherings at a rented space near the campus. Meditation, journaling, authentic living. Lois started talking about alignment and energetic boundaries. She said I was stuck in my head and needed to drop into my body. I asked what that meant. She said I wouldn't understand because I intellectualize everything. "That's literally my job," I said. She didn't laugh. I almost convinced myself it was a phase. Midlife exploration. Plenty of people find new interests at 53. Then Thursday. She came home from a Centered Path meeting, kissed Willa on the forehead, walked past me without a word. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a message from Colleen. I didn't read it on purpose. The preview just sat there on the lock screen. Did you tell him yet? You deserve so much more than this, Mom. Tell me what. Deserve more than what? Gas station on Coburg Road. Engine running. Forehead on the steering wheel. I sat there so long the attendant came over and knocked on the window. Sir? You okay? I lifted my head, nodded, drove home. The next morning I called Sheldon Eisen. Sheldon and I had been friends since graduate school. He'd been through his own divorce 8 years back. Quiet, methodical, no theatrics. He was the only person I trusted to hear this without telling me what to feel. She said, your roommates? He let out a long breath. And you agreed? I agreed to the terms she set. That's all. Irving, you know that's not what she wanted. I know exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to beg. I'm done auditioning for a role I already earned. Sheldon was quiet for a moment. What do you need? A lawyer. Someone who doesn't waste words. Dewey Strickland. Family law. Tell him I sent you. So the roommate arrangement began. And here's where Lois started to unravel, because she'd thrown a grenade expecting an explosion and instead got an accountant. Week 1. She ignored the spreadsheet, bought groceries like normal, left them in the shared fridge. I moved her items to the left side, mine to the right, put a strip of blue tape down the middle shelf. You're being ridiculous, she said. I'm being organized. Roommates share space, not expenses. Irving, stop this. Stop what? You set the terms. I'm honoring them. She slammed a cabinet door and went to the guest room. Week 2. She tried sweetness. Made my coffee without being asked. Left a note on my desk. I miss talking to you. Sat on the couch one evening close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Looked at me with that expression she hadn't used in years. Soft, open, almost young. For about 10 seconds, I wanted to believe it. I really did. Because that was still her face. Still the woman who pointed at my club soda in 1999. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Typed something quick. Looked back at me. What were you saying? I wasn't saying anything. I'd been waiting to see how long the sweetness lasted before the screen pulled her away. 14 seconds. That was the answer. That Sunday, Colleen came for dinner. I could hear them in the kitchen while I helped Willow with her science project in the dining room. Voices low, pointed. He's always been like this, Colleen said. Cold. Calculating. You gave him 24 years, and he gave you a spreadsheet. He's not cold, Lois said. Quietly. Almost defending me. Mom. He put tape on the refrigerator. That's not a husband. That's an accountant who resents you. I stood in the hallway listening. Not hiding, just not announcing myself. There's a difference. Stay with me here, because this is the part one didn't see clearly until much later. Colleen had been doing this for 2 years. Every visit, every phone call, dripping resentment so slowly that Lois mistook it for love. You deserve alignment. Your energy is blocked. He doesn't see you. Each phrase a small incision. Hundreds of them. The Centered Path? Colleen was on the board. She hadn't just introduced Lois to the group. She'd built the pipeline. Every Sunday gathering, every authentic living session, was a room full of women being told their dissatisfaction was spiritual truth. And Colleen sat in the back, watching her mother inch further from the marriage she'd always resented. I discovered this by accident. A flyer on the kitchen table, the Centered Path, Board of Directors. Colleen Lovell, Programs Coordinator. Lois never mentioned it. Maybe she didn't know. Or maybe she did, and it didn't matter anymore. Week 3. That's when Lois weaponized Willa. Willa needs stability. She said at breakfast, right in front of our daughter. She needs parents who are present, not a father who hides behind spreadsheets. Willa looked up from her cereal. 11 years old. Old enough to hear the blade in that sentence. Willa has stability, I said. She has a father who makes her breakfast every morning and helps with homework every night. That hasn't changed. But you've changed. You've become honest? Yeah, I have. Willa pushed her bowl away. Can I go to school early? 6 words. I felt every one of them land in my chest like stones into still water. I drove her to school. At the curb, she didn't get out right away. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? I don't know yet, sweetheart. But whatever happens, you're the thing that matters most. That part doesn't change. It never will. She nodded. grabbed her backpack, didn't look back. After that morning, something shifted in me. Not a decision, more like a current reversing. I stopped reaching. Not as a strategy. Not because I'd read some article about emotional distance. I just didn't have anything left to extend. Monday, Lois mentioned her Centered Path meeting went well. I said, good, without looking up from my book. She waited. I turned a page. Tuesday, she left a plate of cookies on my desk. Peanut butter, the ones I used to love. I ate one. Didn't mention them. She checked twice to see if the plate had moved. Wednesday, Willa had a school concert. Lois suggested we drive together. I'll meet you there, I said. Sat 3 rows back. Clapped for Willa. Drove home alone. Thursday, she came out of the guest room in a dress I hadn't seen before. Asked if I wanted to walk to the Thai place on Pearl Street. I already ate, I said. I had. A sandwich at 5:30, standing over the kitchen sink. Friday, she stood in my study doorway for a full minute. I could feel her there. I kept grating. Eventually, she walked away. The floorboards in the hallway told me the rest. None of this was planned. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't executing a withdrawal. I was running on empty. When you've been talking to someone who stopped listening 2 years ago, the silence doesn't feel like a tactic. It feels like honesty. But she noticed. Of course she noticed. Because the one thing Lois couldn't handle was being irrelevant. I called Dewey Strickland the following Monday. His office was on Willamette Street, 2nd floor, above a used bookshop. He was mid-60s, gray beard, spoke like he had a word budget and didn't plan on going over. How long married? 24 years. Kids? 1 daughter. 11. Both employed. Yes. Good. Cleaner. He wrote something down. What do you want out of this? I want to keep the house until Willa finishes high school. Then sell. Equal custody. Fair split. Fair for who? For Willa. He looked at me over his glasses. Nodded once. That's the right answer. I didn't tell Lois about Dewey. That was the part she couldn't see. While she was finding her alignment and Colleen was coaching her toward the exit, I was quietly organizing every asset, every account, every shared obligation. Not for revenge. For protection. Because I'd watched Sheldon lose half of everything 8 years ago when he wasn't ready, and I'd sworn to myself, if it happens to me, I'll be prepared. Trudy Alcott came by on a Wednesday afternoon when Lois was at work. Real estate agent Dewey recommended. She walked through the house with a clipboard, noted the kitchen we'd renovated in 2019, the deck I'd built, the garden Lois had abandoned 2 summers ago. Nice property, Trudy said. Market's strong in South Eugene. You're sitting on solid equity. I'm not selling yet. Just need to know the number. Smart. Most people wait until the papers are filed. By then, emotions run the numbers. Week 5. Lois swung back to anger. Hard. She cornered me in the kitchen on a Saturday morning while Willa was at a friend's house. You think you're so smart with your little system? Your spreadsheet and your tape and your separate shelves? I think I'm organized. You're punishing me. That's what this is. Some passive-aggressive punishment because you can't handle an honest conversation. You called us roommates. I made it official. If that feels like punishment, maybe think about who wrote the rules. She grabbed the spreadsheet off the fridge. I'd pinned a fresh copy there and tore it in half. Threw the pieces on the counter. There, she said. Now what? I picked up both halves. Set them neatly by the coffee maker. I have copies. She stood there shaking. Not from anger. From the realization that nothing she did, sweetness, tears, rage, moved the needle. I wasn't reacting. And a man who won't react can't be steered. 2 days later, she brought Colleen for backup. They sat me down in the living room like it was an intervention. Irving, Colleen said, hands folded, voice rehearsed. My mother is hurting. She's been trying to reach you for weeks. Don't you think she deserves a real conversation? Colleen, your mother told me our marriage was over. I agreed. That was the real conversation. She didn't say it was over. She said we were roommates. Same thing, different packaging. Colleen looked at Lois. Lois looked at the floor. Nobody said anything for about 30 seconds. Then Colleen stood up, grabbed her jacket, and walked out. Lois followed her to the porch. I could hear Colleen through the front door. He's done, Mom. Let him go. You'll be better off. That was the moment I realized Colleen wasn't trying to save her mother's marriage. She was trying to end it. She'd always been trying to end it. Meanwhile, Lois was sinking deeper. The Centered Path had gone from Sundays to 3 times a week. She'd come home smelling like sage and essential oils, talking about releasing old patterns and making space for authentic self. The old pattern she wanted to release was me. One evening, I was grading papers in my study when I heard her on the phone in the guest room. Door open. She wasn't trying to hide it, or she'd stopped caring whether I heard. I told him months ago, Colleen. He didn't even react. He just agreed. Her voice cracked. What kind of man hears his wife say the marriage is dead and just says, okay? The kind who never cared, Mom. I've been telling you for years. But he makes Willa breakfast every single. That's parenting. That's not love. Two different things. Silence. I sat very still. Because here's the thing about Colleen. She wasn't entirely wrong. Maybe I had retreated too far into my own head. Maybe I should have fought that Tuesday night instead of reaching for a calculator. But Colleen wasn't saying it to help Lois find her way. She was saying it to finish something she'd started the day she moved back to Eugene. The radio on my desk was playing low. NPR, something about the U.S. and Venezuela restoring diplomatic ties after years of frozen silence. I remember thinking, some distances can be bridged. Some have already been burned. Thursday evening. One last try. Lois knocked on my study door. Came in. Sat in the chair across from my desk, the one where Willa usually sat when she needed help with math. Irving. Her eyes were wet. I don't want to be roommates. I said that because I was trying to make you wake up. Fight for us. Show me you still cared. I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw something I'd been refusing to see for 2 years. She was afraid. Not of losing the marriage. Of losing control of the story. She'd set the terms. Declared us roommates. Moved to the guest room. Let Colleen rewrite our history chapter by chapter. And now the quiet man she'd dismissed was calmly walking through the door she'd opened. You wanted me to fight, I said. But I spent 6 months listening instead. To you. To Colleen. To the silence in this house. And here's what I heard. You don't want me. You want someone to react to you. Those aren't the same thing, Lois. That's not. When's the last time you asked about my work? The grant I applied for? The paper I published in January? She opened her mouth. Closed it. You can't remember. Because Colleen told you my work didn't matter. That I was stuck in my head. And somewhere in there, you started believing her over 24 years of evidence. Colleen is my daughter. Colleen is an adult who has resented me since the day we met. She sat on the board of the group that taught you to see me as the problem. She coordinated your entire exit strategy, and you handed her the keys because it felt like love. Lois went still. What do you mean? She sat on the board. The centered path. Colleen Lovell, programs coordinator. She didn't just introduce you, Lois. She built the room you walked into every week. The color left her face. Slowly. Like watching a tide pull back. She wouldn't. She would. And she did. Ask her. Watch her eyes when you do. Lois pressed her hands flat on the desk, breathing hard. I could see her replaying 2 years of Sunday gatherings, Tuesday sessions, Colleen's gentle suggestions, all of it reframing in real time. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Quiet. Not angry. Just done. Dewey Strickland is handling it. The house has been appraised. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. Equal custody of Willa. Fair split. I keep the house until she finishes school. You already. How long have you been planning this? Since the morning you didn't notice I'd stopped talking, and it took you a minute to look up from your phone. She stared at me. And I saw her. Not the woman Colleen had reshaped. Not the spiritual seeker who needed alignment. Just Lois. 53. Frightened. Realizing that the quiet man she'd underestimated had been the most deliberate person in the room this whole time. You can't use Willa in this, I said. You tried it at breakfast. In front of her. That stops now. Willa knows who shows up every morning. Who sits with her homework. Who drives her to school and waits at the curb until she's inside. She knows. I wasn't using her. You said I hide behind spreadsheets. In front of our 11-year-old daughter. That was a weapon, and you knew exactly what you were doing. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. What happens to us? We become what you said we were. Except now it's legal. The room went quiet. The kind of quiet that has weight. You feel it settle into your ribs. I took 2 days at my brother's lake cabin after that. 2 hours north of Eugene, no cell reception. Just water and Douglas firs and a silence that didn't punish you for existing inside it. First morning I sat on the dock with coffee and watched fog lift off the surface. Didn't think about Lois. Didn't think about Colleen or Dewey or the house. Just watched the water turn from silver to blue. When I came back, Lois had taken the tape off the refrigerator, put her things back on both shelves. Like removing the evidence could undo what had already been decided. It couldn't. The paperwork moved through by spring. No courtroom drama. Dewey handled details. Lois kept her retirement, I kept mine. House stayed with me until Willa turned 18. Equal custody, alternating weeks. Lois found an apartment off Hilliard Street, small, clean, close to Willa's school. Colleen called me once, the week after Lois told her. You're making a mistake. Mom was the best thing that ever happened to you. Colleen, I said. Your mother told me we were roommates. I believed her. You should have, too. She hung up. Willa adjusted faster than I expected. Kids feel the tension leave a house before the adults do. One evening, she was doing homework at the kitchen table and looked up at me. Dad, it's quieter now, but it's a better quiet. I didn't trust my voice for a second, so I just nodded and went back to the dishes. 6 months later, I ran into Lois at a parent-teacher conference. We sat 3 chairs apart. Polite. Civil. She looked different. Not worse, not better. Just different. Like someone who'd been told a story about herself and was starting to wonder who wrote it. How's the research? She asked afterward in the hallway. First time in 3 years. Good. Got the grant. The one from last year? Yeah, that one. She nodded. Looked at her hands. I should have asked sooner. Yeah, I said. You should have. We stood there a moment. Then I walked to my car, and she walked to hers. I still make that pasta on Tuesdays. Same recipe, same kitchen, same table. Willa sits across from me now and tells me about her day. Every detail, every friend, every small injustice of 6th grade. And I listen to every word. Because that's what I do. I listen. I process. And when I finally speak, it's worth hearing. Turns out I was never a roommate. I was just the only one who read the lease. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.